the man who fights out of Wythenshawe, Manchester, England.
Those punches that Kelly is landing are well-timed counter shots.
Want to welcome today, Jimmy Kelly onto the Rees-ilience Project podcast. How are we, mate?
I'm good, mate. Yeah, nice to be here. Numero uno.
Jimmy, for the people who don't know, is a professional boxer who comes from Manchester.
Yeah.
From the most famous place in Manchester, Wythenshawe.
The fighting city of Wythenshawe.
Fighting city, that's it, exactly. Jimmy's 30 years old. He's a former WBO Inter-Continental light middleweight champion. Yeah. And he's soon, hopefully, to be the WBO world title and the WBC Middle Eastern title. Yeah. Is that the next two what we're going for?
Yeah, it'd be one or the other, depending on how the dates fit. Yeah, I mean, but obviously the priority, if we've got our world title, I'd snatch that at both hands. If the champion has a bit more time or goes another route, I've got an option there to fight in the Middle East for the Middle Eastern title. So
amazing, mate.
Yeah, cheers, mate.
So obviously, you know, with the podcast and with what we're promoting with the Rees-ilience Project, it's around inspiring, you know, motivating, encouraging people to be the best they can be.
Yeah.
And a big thing with someone like yourself, and the reason why, you know, just to let people know, I've known Jimmy for a long, long time before you got to the point where a lot of people knew you in the media. Is your story is inspiring, as in, you know, the bumps in the road, what you've had along the way, where you've been, you know, in your game as well. You can be on top, you can come down, and it's mindset and willingness and desire to get back to claim where you want to be again, which, you know, I'm sure day to day is how you work.
Yeah, of course.
And a big reason why I wanted to get you on here was not just talk about the boxing, but to talk about you as a person, talk about your story, how it all started, you know, where it started, who inspired you. And this is also for anyone else who's in the same, you know, industry as yourself or wants to be a professional boxer. So you can educate them, you can support them. If there's anything what you know now, what you didn't know then, what could kind of fast track them to help them to get where they want to be. And also, you know, talk about your values and talk about you as an individual, as in, you know, day to day, how you live your life. So, you know, where did it start? How did it start?
I think it started for me through my dad. My dad was a boxer. He boxed at Jimmy Egan's from being a kid. And it was just
Jimmy Egan's where Tyson started as well, Tyson Fury, innit?
Yeah, so there's, you know, there was me, there was Tyson Fury as I was a kid. But I think it just started like natural. Like my dad was training in the evenings and I'd just get dragged to the gym with him and he'd say like, oh, you come and box with me tonight. And obviously your dad's always your first hero, so I was like, oh yeah, of course. And I just go to the gym with him and it started me just like sat down as a kid or messing about, you know, with cones or whatever was there, then just bit by bit, you go, oh, why don't you try it in a bag? And then I try that, and then before you know it, time just goes by and you're being more involved as you get older.
So just a bit of background as well on your dad's not just boxed, he's done a bit in the game, hasn't he? Go on, tell us a bit about your dad.
Yeah, my dad, he's boxed, he was a doorman for years, he's a good character, my dad. I think he's a lot tougher than I am. Like, I think he was more made to be a fighter. I don't think I was. You know, you have like that nature versus nurture thing. I think he was sort of born to, where I don't think I was. But I think my like environment made me become the fighter, and obviously I've excelled because of my mindset and that. But yeah, my dad, he's a funny fella, he's a tough fella.
What age was that then? What age was that when you started? When was the first time you put your gloves on?
I think about 4. I think 4 years of old, I started putting my gloves on. And then just the thing like, oh, dad sat on the settee and like punched my hands like I do with my little lad. But then I remember he was always in the gym, he was always like the hardest worker in the gym, and everyone looked up to my dad as like this fucking, that superhero, and he was always like dead brave, dead fit, good reputation, known to have like a bit of a scrap and that, and I was like, oh, there's my dad. I mean, it's like, I remember like, I always felt confident like as a kid, thinking like, oh, my dad will be there.
Yeah,
cool.
yeah,
You get what I mean? You carry yourself a bit of like, with a bit of arrogance because you're like, oh, my dad.
So with your training then, so you started at 4. I believe it or not, I was in the boxing stuff till about 11, and then with me, I was nowhere near at the level of you guys, but I dropped away from it for football, and football obviously became my life, it was my life anyway, and I think the boxing was something what I just really enjoyed. But at what age was it where you really started to notice, and your family started to notice, where you were probably going to be a high performer and you had ability to fulfill, to do that full time? What age was that?
I think later again, like, I think everything just sort of came at once for me. Like, I maybe like a bit of a soft kid in primary school, and maybe like if I had fights in primary school, I'd come off second best, and it just like boxing didn't really seem to click him. And my dad was like, "Oh, you never box, it's fine." Like, I just want you to be happy and all that sort of thing. And I probably was never destined, but I think.
Was your dad ever like, obviously because that was a big part of his life as well, and he did well in boxing, a lot of people in that industry know your dad. People I know, every time I mention you, they mention your dad as well. And I think it's inspiring that you've had someone who's a role model as a father, but also a role model in something you love doing, to show you exactly how you should be doing it. And talking about other athletes, talking to other people, talking to, influences of people who are successful, and people who are driven to be even more successful like yourself, is, having individuals around you who influence you positively, and also probably don't put that much pressure on you where they're forcing you to be something you're not.
Yeah, I think you get a lot of like the dads that are like vicarious dads in it. That's like, oh, do what I never done. But it was never like that with me. My dad, he wasn't like, because of my ego, I want my son to be X, Y, and Z. He was just like dead relaxed with it, and I think that's probably why I stuck at it, even though it wasn't maybe that good to beginning. But I think as I started hitting like 12, so I had my first fight at 10, and I lost, and I was just like, I felt like dead ashamed. I was like, oh, my dad's like this good boxer. And I'm
so
like,
there was an expectation there.
Yeah, but that was like an expectation I put on myself. Like, it wasn't an external one from him. My dad's like, well, it's fine. Like, he said, do you want to box again? So I said, yeah. He said, well, you've got to go back and fight that lad again who's beat you in your first fight. And I'm like, oh, fucking hell, like, really? And he's like, yeah, that's like, it's not a problem. Like, and then I won. Then there's like a gap of a year where I didn't fight. And even like I won that, I was like 1-1, lost one as a kid at like 10. And then I had a year period, and it just seemed to like grow and mature in that year, like socially and everything like that. And I started boxing again, and then I had about 5 or 6 fights to become national champion for my age group.
What age was that?
So I was like 11 or 12 at the time. So I was like schoolboy. So I was like schoolboy ABA champion. And that's from, everything just seemed to click at one point. Like, even if I got into like altercations at school, as in like the first year at high school, I was having fights like other lads from schools that are like in their final year, because I was tall for my age. It was like maybe a year before I was having fights with people my own age and losing, but then I was like smashing people that are a lot older. Everything just seemed to click in place.
Do you think, let's say this in a respectful way, we all come from different places. We all have different stories. It's not a way, it's a way, not the way of getting there. We're all different, we're all got different mindsets. But the one area what a lot of people become a good player or a good athlete to being a high performer is mindset and confidence, and the confidence to challenge yourself as well. When you're a kid, when I was a kid, I was 10 playing against 50-year-old lads, playing Wembley singles and heads and volleys in Wythenshawe or wherever. I'd rock up with a ball, and I used to get smashed to bits. But go back to what you're saying about being in school, being in the playgrounds, because you have that belief, no matter where you are or who's in front of you, you're having a go, aren't you?
Yeah, but it seems to happen quick for me. Like I went from maybe being like a bit of a geeky, quiet kid, and then maybe my confidence came at a certain time. I don't know, like you went to high school and it just seemed to go that quick. Yeah, I mean, I was plateauing for ages and never really getting good at boxing, and I won a fight, I lost a fight, and then all of a sudden it just seems like, oh, I've become national champion when I was 12, obviously, for my age, and just went, everything just seemed to go like that, and it's just carried on.
Do you think
like
that played a massive part, though, for you as well? As in, everything what you've put in to get to that accolade then triggered the next step once you gained it? Because certain people in sport, and you'll see this, they get to that highest point, but they never go higher again, or as soon as it's given to them, they start to fall back down that mountain of what they've climbed to, because they've gone, oh, I've done it now.
Yeah, I never have that feeling in me, like, I'm never content, or never like, oh, I've done all right there, like, I'm happy, like, even if I win a fight or I do well, I'm always critical, and I'm never like, oh, I'm happy now. I'm always like, right, what's next? What am I doing? And my missus always says, like, one of your things you need to work on in life is, because I go from one goal to another goal, and she'll say, like, if I've got a few months between a fight, I would count down the days to the next fight instead. Be careful, like, you don't wish your life away, and the children and stuff like that, like, enjoy this time with them, because I know you're really focused and you're driven and everything's like towards that goal, but you said you need to make sure you're still living in the present as well. You get what I mean? I think that sometimes I can be guilty of, like, I'll get to one goal and I'll be obsessed with, like, what's the next one? And I don't think of, like, what's happening. But
I always say this, and, you know, I've been really fortunate in the last couple of months speaking to some of the most successful sporting people who've built up some of the biggest businesses in the world, and I always have a saying, you know, don't be a museum, you got to be a factory. Because what happens is, when you're a museum, mate, you get dust on your trophies, you know, because once that trophy's in the cupboard, unless there's more trophies going in it, you don't open it, mate, they're collecting dust. You got to be a factory, you got to keep producing. Now, for certain people like yourself, or for other athletes, or, you know, this isn't just about athletes, this is about anyone in life. You know, whether you're in a job, you might be in sales, you know, you might be a part-time runner, you know, whatever you're doing in your life where you've got to be driven, but you've also got to know how to manage that so it don't consume you. Because when it consumes you, the other factors is anxiety, you know, you're overthinking, you lose the enjoyment of stuff. I've seen people lose the passion, you know, some of what's got them to the point in their life, but because it's took over. And I think mindset's key. So for me, you know, what I'd say to you is what's your normal week like now? So obviously, you know, are you in camp now? Would you say you're in camp?
No, I'm just taking over, but even when I'm not in camp, I train every day. But it's just it's just like exercising, I call it, like keeping fit. Like there's always people in armies that are always fighting, and I'm always happy to go in and help spar. Like, I always just use it for practice, like other things that I'm not strong at. So I'm still working, I'm helping them out, but I'm learning. The dates, I normally go in like 3 days a week.
So at the minute now, you're coaching as well, aren't you?
I am,
Right, so here we go then. So you as an athlete and you as a professional, getting to the point of where you've got to. Now how long have you been coaching now?
3 years.
So 3 years, but say the last couple of years you've stepped it up and you've started to really get involved more and more. And I think any of the kids, any of the, you know, the athletes, the boxers, what you have, they're lucky to have you with your journey, what you've had and the way you are. But do you think now with the coaching side, it's made you look at things completely different and assess things more than you just being Jimmy Kelly, the boxer?
Yeah, because I've got to explain things, and like obviously tactics I know in myself because I've done it for so long, but to be able to break it down and explain it to someone who doesn't know what I'm talking about and get them to understand it and implement it, like it's a massive thing. Like little Tom Deering's in Estonia now, and he sent me videos last night of him, because I said, right, if you go away on holiday or you go on a trip, to go to different gyms and get the experience. He said it makes you grow as a fighter. Like anywhere I go in the world on holiday, I'm finding a boxing gym and I'm taking my gum shield and I'm sparring. And he's done the same. His dad's obviously recorded it and I'm saying, oh, you've got to do this and you've got to do that. Explaining to him. And then if you don't understand, I'll find clips of a different fight. Like, there was a certain thing he was doing yesterday, and I said, that's good, but you need to, this fighter did it in this situation, and it was to his detriment because this happened. And then I was able to say, look, watch this round of this fight. It was the American Danny Garcia. Like, Tom was like throwing like 5 or 6 punch combos, and the kid was like sat waiting. Said, be careful, you don't stay there, because like, remember when Danny Garcia just like was patient and caught him with a left hook. Said the kid was trying to do the same to you. Said, find you two, then move.
So now with you coaching, when you look at like, so along my journey, let's say obviously my career has been coaching, where I've got to where I've got. You know, playing was a part of it. It comes to a certain point, and the coaching, the love, the passion for it, you know, took over. And I think coaching and teaching, you know, in football obviously, it's I think it's supported a lot more than what it is in boxing. But I also love boxing in the fact that, you know, it's the old saying, you know, if it's not broke, you don't fix it. So if you look at the mentality of a lot of boxing trainers or coaches, they've had their ways and their methods for a long time. Now, analysis, like what you're talking about, is coming in. You know, people are watching more and more clips. There's more variety and ways of assessing what players or boxers need to adjust on, need to add in. You know, do you think you coaching, because you are still a professional fighter at the top of his game now, do you think that area now is really supporting you and is helping you become the best you can be, ready for your next fight?
Yeah, I believe so, because on one period, like, I'm 30 and I'm getting a bit older. I've got like 3 lads that I sort of coach to like amateur level, and they've all got good winning records. On one hand, they're young and hungry, and they're a lot fresher than I am. So I've got to work to keep up with them fitness-wise. So that keeps me younger. Then there's me explaining like my philosophy of boxing. Like, I've got to understand it myself so much more, because it's easy for people to be able to do it, but you'll know, like, a lot of coaches, a lot of players that go to coaching, they can't coach because, you know, they can't communicate their thing across. Like, my philosophy, like, with boxing is like, a lot of places work hard and put the boxer through like the paces a lot, while mine's like a lot of technical stuff. I'm thinking, like, if you go to football, you go to to a session with you do like a lot of the footwork, a lot of the drills in the cones. You don't go, right, you're going to do like dribble the ball and loads of burpees so you're tired and come away. Like, you've had a good workout, but what have you learned? I say, when you're with me, you learn boxing and you learn how to box, and you do your fitness stuff in a separate session, but you've got to learn your skill, you've got to learn your trade here.
So with me, you know, I say this like, you know, I don't say this vainly, but there's, you know, I sit with a lot of people, and I swear to you, there's a handful of people in football, even, you know, people who are at the top level, who articulate and assess and really look at what they're doing. So you can put on a session as coaches, and you can pass time, because we've done that. You've done that. You can do that drinking a cup of tea. You know, you probably don't even need to plan a session. You could put a session on. People would come away and go, oh, that's amazing. You know, that was great. Oh, I feel great. Now, like you say there's different focuses and there's different like areas to attack. And for me, when you do technical work, I see, like, in the industry, what I've been in football, you know, social media's gone crazy now. So anyone can look like a great coach. Anyone can look like they know what they're doing. But actually, how many people, it's not about standing in front of the camera, but actually can explain exactly and go into the level of detail so someone understands it implicably. So that moment in the game they are prepared for, or that moment in the fight they're ready for. Because what happens is quite a lot of coaches are quite generic. And you know, especially if you're, say for instance, on Sunday I come to you, you know, and the first thing I said to you on Sunday was, you know, there's 1 million people doing boxing sessions now. You know, every PT is doing a boxing session as well, which is great, because, you know, they might be stepping out of their comfort zone to better people. But when you're around someone who really knows what they're doing, I know that, and it's the level of detail, it's it's habits, it's teaching you good habits. And,
Yeah,
you know,
agree.
you for me, you know, obviously I'm a blank piece of paper, mate. So, you know, for someone who's been coached by somebody else for such a period of time and had success, what I find sometimes is when you've got someone in front of you who's had success and you're going, look, you need to stop doing this.
Yeah.
You need to start doing that. It's such a hard process to break because it's kind of ingrained in them. Whereas for you now as a professional fighter who's at the top of his game, but also for someone who's developing as a coach, because you're further ahead as a fighter than you are as a coach, and you're still going to learn, is you've got to, like, that's the difference between the good and the great in the coaching game, no matter what sport it is you've got to know the concepts you want, you've got to know your methods, you've got to have a philosophy, and your beliefs, you've got to stand by them. Because if you know they work, you know, you've got to maintain that. Because if you're too lenient, you're then developing someone else off someone else's coaching program and not yours. And I think for you, you know, you've got to practice what you preach.
Yeah, I have my philosophy, and my guys sort of know it. You get what I mean? I've been able to get it across to them. Like I said, you can pass time with sessions, and you know, if you've got to do a keep fit, you can just get them to kick a ball about or whatever. But my guys, I'm really strict with them with everything. Like, I always have I always think like before and after. So if you're like with someone in front of you, you've got to move, punch, then move. You don't just like stand there, punch, and then admire your work. So I'm always before, after. There's no like getting past it. Don't ever throw a punch and stay there. You've got to be moving. It's hands, feet, waist. You move your hands, you move your feet.
So what you're saying,
you're
saying is exactly what I say. So I'm saying all the time, you know, you've got to be light on your feet. Your feet can't stop. As soon as you stop, you're getting hit. As soon as you stop with a ball, you're getting tackled. So movement's key. But the one thing which as well as the technical work and the physical, it's your initiative and also the speed of your mind. How quick you solve situations. How quick you smell what's going to happen next. When I say smell, you're sensing that you can see something's going to break down, or you can see there's an opportunity to go forward, which is the same as yours. And I think the biggest thing with that is like training the mind to react quick. You know, don't be laboured in your movements, don't be laboured in your thinking. Fastest thinkers get the first opportunities. Fastest thinkers solve the problems, you know. So the next thing really I want to talk to you about is like, for you as a person then. So you've started where you started, Jim. You've got to the point. You've obviously, you've had 30 fights now. Yeah, that's right, isn't it? 30
as a
fights.
professional, I'm a
30 fights.
over 100 as now.
There you go. You know, didn't realise you was that old.
So I'm good looking. I'm good.
You must be good anyway. You're not that bad. But my point is, you know, you've got experience now. You've got knowledge. So when you first started and when you first started training, you know, along the way, I'm sure you've had loads of different coaches along the way. Is there any along the way, though, which, you know, stand by you, even though you might not be with them, as in they've left a lasting mark on you in the fact that something they've taught you, or it might be a tough time, it might be a great time? Is there anyone who's played a massive part in your career?
I think I took a lot from each coach. And like I said, if I go away, I'll go and train with someone else and learn. But for me, for myself, massive, and my dad, set great foundations. I had my whole amateur career, my dad, and I won 5 national titles back to back. I boxed for England. I was England captain. I medalled in the Europeans twice, and I learnt. So I feel like I got a lot from my dad. When I turned professional, I was at Champs Camp, which is known for being like an aggressive
bar bag run,
aggressive, come forward, pressure. Then when I got to the Liam Smith fight, I felt like he was better at that than me. So I thought, well, I need to learn how to box defensively as well. I went with Lee Bird. I boxed defensively. Maybe because I was that focused on becoming defensive, I went too far the other way. And then now I found the happy medium with Arne. So I've gone from one there to there. And then my third coach, like my professional career, I've come in the middle and I've got it right. You get what I mean?
So the environment you're in now, you're at Arne's gym, obviously, which you know, I see yourself and I see other fighters there. And do you know what's nice to see as well, and I think it's really important, is when you're in such a high-pressured environment where there's individuals who, because, you know, I'm used to a team sport, but sometimes as well, I always say this, even if you're in a team sport, it's important that you coach a team to be a talented group of individuals as well. Because we're all unique, we've all got different skill sets, we've all got different potentials, certain areas we need to upskill, certain areas we need to maintain, certain areas where you need to grow. And I think the biggest thing, what you've got to do in life, you know, to be the best you can be, is you've got to enjoy it. You've got to enjoy it.
We get on, we
have
a good laugh there.
I think there's nothing worse when you see someone super talented, and because of when you're doing something, when you're great at something, you have to repeat and repeat and repeat. And sometimes you know what you're walking into. You know exactly what you're walking into. You go, and this is hell. But you know you've got to go through it. And, you know, a key thing is if you're around people who, one, they're fantastic coaches, they've got unbelievable knowledge, but two, they're good with people, they understand people, they're good communicators. You know, you can have good days, bad days. You know, when I was at City, I used to sit on the reception, I used to see players walk through the door, and the first thing I always used to look at was their eyes, and I'd be like, sleep well last night, did you? You know, late night was it, or whatever. And sometimes it was just trying to provoke conversation to go, are you all right? Do you know what I mean? Without saying, are you all right? Because everyone's answering.
It is draining.
No, I'm okay. I'm
Yeah.
okay. Now, the next bit for me is you know, maintaining mindset, maintaining positive mental health, maintaining drive. Because, you know, in that 30 fights professionally what you've had, there's been 3 losses, hasn't there? You know, now, what do you think you learn more from, the wins or the losses?
The losses. As a whole, I've learned more from the losses, but there's parts that you learn about yourself in certain fights. Like, you know, like I said before, I alluded to when I fought Liam Smith. I was aggressive, and he was better at that than me. So I thought, well, I need to go learn how to be more defensive and work on my ring IQ. So I thought there, I've got to learn, and I've got to improve in certain areas. The fight with Dennis Hogan when I lost in Australia, that was a robbery.
Yeah.
And then that's the fight with Kanat Islam, like I was a 28-1 or 1-28 underdog. And I feel like I learned a lot about myself in that fight. Like, I raised my game massive, you get what I mean?
Do you think there's been fights where, you know, I know footballers who have literally won a medal at Wembley, and you know, it's different because it's a team. It's not different, it's the same, but it's a different environment, it's a different scenario. And even though they've achieved what they've achieved, I know they've given the medal to a fan, or they've given the medal to someone, because they've not felt like they've got what they've wanted to get, but they're not happy how they've got it. As in, the performance, the way tactically they've gone through the game, might even be how long they've played in the game. It's different, you know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
Like, if you're fighting someone who you think you're much more skilled than, physically in much better shape, more knowledgeable than, and you go the full way, when really in your mind you should be finishing that fight early. You know, do you ever get to the point, or assessing any of the fights, whether it's wins or losses, and then are you someone who instantly then takes that away and works on it? Or do you just maintain what you're doing?
No, I'll always look at what I should have improved on. And I'll always analyse, like I'm a big analyser. My last fight in America in February, I fought a lad, Edward Diaz from Dominican Republic. And I felt like I should have got him out of there. But then I was a bit disappointed with the performance, but I won every round on all 3 cards. But then you have to take into facts like he was small, so I couldn't really find his body. He just seemed like I couldn't sort of get his rhythm. He'd come off a career best win. He just beat an American guy that was 29-1. So I think, well, where I've been in that mindset that I'm coming for the big upset and the underdog, he's had that going into that fight. So I try and have a look at it as a whole. You get what I mean?
So here's one. What's the lowest point in your career? What has been the hardest time where you've had to be resilient?
I think there's two that stand out massively. I think number one was when I fought Liam Smith. At the time I was unbeaten, fighting for a world title. It was the first time in 100 years it was United fan against a Liverpool fan for a world title. He won it. It was like the week before Christmas, and I remember there's two people that I'd. So obviously I lost on, say, like the Saturday night, and then the Monday morning I thought, right, I'm gonna go to Trav Centre, just get like a few bits for Christmas, and I'll just try to get out of the house because I'm a bit pissed off. And there's two people I seen that pretended they didn't see me. I'm like, I know, blanked and moved away. And I thought, they were at the fight the other night, you know what I mean? And I went from, I think I'd done like maybe like 700 or 800 tickets for the fight to the next fight. I'd probably done like 60 or 70. And it was a big, like, I had like a big rise, and it was a big crash down. It was like a slow rise back up. And I think the other one that stands out is probably like during COVID, and that was tough because obviously boxing was cancelled. And there's that thing of having to believe that there's something at the end of the tunnel. You know, no one knew when it was going to end. No one knew what was happening from day to day, when boxing would begin, and you know, when am I going to get my opportunity again. I was trying to push for fights that were so close to becoming, like I was supposed to fight in Nigeria, one of them.
Remember that, yeah.
That come out. I was supposed to fight a lad called Rob Brandt in Atlantic City. And then literally a month before the fight, I was ready to go away over Christmas to New York and finish my camp. And he tore his bicep. And it was like, every time it was like there, I'd grab it and then it'd be moved back. And it was just dead frustrating for us. But then having to go back to the gym and just keep working and keep improving. And sometimes you thought, oh, what am I fucking doing there? Like, when's this going to end? But, you know, I think they're the times when my success I got afterwards was like puts a foundation, because, you know, I kept fit, I kept strong. I was training as I had a fight all the time, and just kept my mindset like it'll come to an end at some point, and the time will come, and then my work I've put in during this will pay off, and it has, touch wood.
I think the biggest thing in sport at that time was, you know, depending on what sport you was in, was dependent on how stable financials were.
Yeah.
You know, where you live. You know, I know a lot of people see sport as a really high-paid industry.
Yeah.
But you know, depending on what sport you're in, people are paid differently.
Of course,
you know, whether it's prize money, whether it's, you know, wages regularly, whether it's performance paid. And the biggest thing for anyone who's in sport at that time, you know, was a lot of people did sink, you know, sink as in being unsure of what's next, being unsure of getting paid. So many sports people I know, athletes, coaches, managers, you know, wasn't being paid, you know, and I think that period, you know, hopefully we never see another period like that again. It was a tough time for me, you know, I'll hold my hands up, you know. I didn't know my arse from my elbow, what I was doing. I had a plan to go somewhere, and it really hit me hard. And that period for me, my mental health really did dip. And even though I fought through it, and I was dealing with a lot of the professional players at the time, I found that tough, because it wasn't normality, and it was like, are we going to live like this forever? And I think, you know, for someone like yourself is, because you are an individual sport, an individual person in a sport, it's you v you.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
So even though you get access to a coach, that coach isn't with you all the time. You've not got teammates around you. You know, you've got people box with you, but you're not all on the same pitch at the same time. You're in the ring at separate periods, aren't you? You know?
You are, yeah.
And any opportunities you get to be with someone who's going to benefit you, support you, help you, you've got to grasp that. But then sometimes, and I say this to like parents, I say it to coaches, I say it to managers, I say it to, in football, obviously, where I relate it, is, you know, you've got to take that on yourself, and you can't rely on everyone else to make you better.
Yeah.
Because your number one coach has to be you, has to come from you. You've got to live it. You've got to, you know, everything you do during the day has an impact on how you perform. Whenever you are going to perform as a boxer, there's a massive build up towards the fight, you know, depending on how long them fights are, the rounds, the minutes, whatever it is. But in football, obviously, it's a regular weekly match, which your week, depending on your week, can affect how you perform. And a big thing for me is, you know, there's a lot of driven people in this game, but there's also a lot of people, I think, who want it that much, the emotions take over. And because success is wanted so much, a lot of people want to get it there and then. And going back to what I said before, you know, what you invest in yourself, as in analysing yourself, diet, nutrition, sleep, you know, who you have around you, how many times a day you train. Everyone's got a different formula, you know, and I'm sure along the way, for you to be at, you know, the optimal place for you to perform, has that formula changed, or do you think now you've got a pretty clear idea of what is successful for you?
Yeah, I think my formula's changed like over time. I think when I look at the likes of Tom Daring who I've got now, mate, he trains like 3 times a day, and I think, yeah, you're young, so you can get away with that. Like I can't do that anymore. When I'm not in camp, like I always think I have a weight that I don't allow myself to go above, because I don't want it. If I go to training camp, I don't want it to be like fat camp and just try to lose weight. I don't go more than a certain amount over. Like, I'm in good shape now. I exercise and I do all my right things. I eat well. I've never drank. I've never smoked. I go to bed early. I could live a pretty boring life, to be fair. I always have. Like, even there's other lads that are athletes who like going out and they like going on holidays, but I've always just liked my own. I like my own space, and I just love my boxing. Like you said before about like the finance part during COVID, like, I'm lucky that when I have got paid and I have earned good money, like I've not been like, oh, I'm gonna go buy a car, or I'm gonna go do something. Like, I just look after myself, and I think, Joe, I get my dream job, and I get to live my dreams, and I get to test myself and find out who I am, like, deep down, because, you know, certain situations that you don't find out who you are until you're sort of in it. So I get to do that. Like, the money's not mine, it's for my family. Like, and it's for them to live a good life and beyond my career. So I was lucky that when COVID came, even though I didn't fight for 2 years, I wasn't massively affected, because I knew like I had a buffer there. But I was able to go, I've not got that pressure or that stress. I can just stick to my craft and perfect my craft. And luckily that's what I did do.
I think a lot of people who were intelligent at that time use that time to develop themselves even more.
I think it is like, the way I've said it in the past was like, it made you or it broke you. That COVID time, people leveled up and people doing all like mad runs and stuff like that. And
you do marathons.
Me and Adam Waterfield were doing marathons every other day, mate. Like, I think I'd done like 7 or 8 during COVID. Like, we were just like, oh, what we're doing today, Adam? And they'd be like, right, the gym's closed, so. But we were doing like mad ones, like through Buxton, where it's like that. You know what I mean?
So the mad time that, because I remember like, you know, there was hardly any cars on the road at the time.
Yeah.
And the only time you see someone was either running past you on a bike, and you're like, bloody hell, what's he doing over there? He's never run his life. And next thing, he's whipping 10Ks, like people you've known for years. But I think there was a lot of good what went on at that period, as in people developing themselves and people probably having a good look in the mirror going, actually, this is a good period for me to really focus on me. But I also think there was a period of it where people who were struggling, you know, people who might have been struggling financially, people who might have been, you know, had stuff going on in their lives. I think that damaged quite a lot of people in the fact that you were isolated away from people. And, you know, that's a testament to you, because you've probably done more things to challenge yourself and try things what you probably normally couldn't do if the world was going on.
I think that's even for normal people. Like, maybe people were able to not work, and even if a lot of people have got the furlough pay, but people are probably able to sit there and go, what do I do? Like, what is my purpose in life? I've not got to go to work at the minute. Do I want to do this work for the rest of my life? Or is this a bit of a break now where I can sit down and have a bit of an analyse? Because you know yourself, like when you get into the routine of like working,
Structure,
yeah, you've weeks pass by, like you're up early, you go to work, you finish work, and people probably watch Coronation Street, and then it goes on for decades, but people probably had the time to sit there and think, right, is this what I want to do? Like, have I got to make some change in my life? And I know a lot of people like did make some good changes, even though I thought it was a load of rubbish, like locking everyone in. Like, I was one of the most vocal people. Like, I'm not changing a thing. Like, you can all fuck off. You get what I mean? Like, no one's telling me that I can and can't do things. And I think as time's gone on, I was called all names under the sun at one point. Like, oh, you're selfish, you're this, you're that. And I was like,
I was going for like 2 runs a day.
Yeah.
And I remember a neighbour having a stopwatch going, he's been out of the house for more than an hour, you know, and it's like a police officer knocking on your door and going, we've been told that, and the guy's looking at me going, we've got to do this. I'm like, mate, I'm going out again in about 20 minutes.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people worked out that the neighbours are snakes, and I think you worked out that a lot of people were, you know, they lack their own thought process and say, well, look at things, go, this is rubbish, this. Like, I don't want to go into it because it's probably a bit of a shitty time in history, but like, oh, you have to wear a mask into a restaurant, then when you sit down, you could take it off. Like, mate, there's no logic behind it.
It's crazy, isn't it?
And I think it demoralised a lot of people. But like I said, I think it made people, or it broke people. And it was like a fine line of which one it would be.
I think what's key though on the back of that, and you know, that discussion there is, no matter what's going on in your life, there's only you can change it. You can get all the support you want, but it's up to you to make them changes. You've got to know little things what will affect you positively and affect you negatively, from sleep, eat, diet, people around you, influences, structure of your week. And people who are high performers and people who are successful don't always necessarily think they're successful, because they always think like it could be over tomorrow. So they don't want to let go of that. So they're always adapting to be the best they can be, like you say, you know.
You can't train as hard, you've got to train smarter.
Exactly. Manage your body.
Of course, yeah.
So, last question then. If you were to go back now to being 16, with your knowledge, with the ups, the downs, the highs, the lows, what advice would you give to yourself and anyone else, not necessarily boxers, anyone else in life, to be successful and for them to be the best they can be? What advice would you give them?
Buy Bitcoin.
Buy Bitcoin.
Nah, do you know what I'd say? I'd just say I wouldn't give myself any advice. I wouldn't be like, avoid this person or do this, because there's times where I've had like negatives and in relationships with people, and I think, well, all right, it was a crap time being in it, but what have I come out of? Do I know to avoid that certain type of people in the future? Yeah, well, lesson learned, and is that the difference to me getting to the next level? Or just say, look, you're on a bit of a journey here. There's going to be some proper high times, and there's going to be some really shit times, but the shit times aren't going to last forever. There's only, once you hit there, it can only go like that. And when you're at the top, don't be a dick and enjoy it too much, because it's only going to go like that, and it's just a constant up and down. So don't be too arrogant when you're at the top, and don't be too disheartened when you're at the bottom, and you know, you just got to ride the wave.
Yeah. Thank you for your time, mate. Thanks for coming on.
Is that it, mate? When's episode 2?
Yeah.
Thank you very much, mate. Appreciate it.